The JWA was the first wrestling promotion in Japan, but like in the United States, smaller entities sprout up. From Masahiko Kimura's IPWF to Toyo Nobori's Tokyo Pro, many failed to sprout up and compete. But this episode is about the first successful minor promotion in Japan, the International Wrestling Enterprise, IWE. Riki Dozan's death brought tensions throughout the successor committee in the JWA. Two major events occurred in 1966. Toyo Nobori leaving with Inoki and others to create Tokyo Pro, and financier Isao Yoshiwara leaving to create the IWE after many disputes with chairman Kokichi Endo. Tokyo Pro rushed their promotion with Inoki feuding with the best talent they could bring in like Johnny Valentine. But the majority of the roster were either too green or just too mediocre. IWE was doing what JWA did in building up interest and getting their finances ready for their first show. January of 1967 would see Tokyo Pro join the IWE at their debut show, in hopes that their partnerships could salvage their declining business. On the IWE's first show, their ace, Hiro Matsuda, would face Danny Hodge for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title, in a time limit draw in the main event. Getting an NWA champion was impressive to get for this show due to NWA's partnership with the JWA, but knowing how wrestlers can be when it comes to booking, Danny Hodge probably went behind the NWA's back to get an extra payday. While we're at it, let's talk a bit about IWE's first ace, Hiro Matsuda. His real name, Yasuhiro Kojima, and he was born in 1937 in Yokohama. He would go through high school as a star pitcher on their baseball team before joining the JWA dojo. He would debut in 1957 and go on a 6-year excursion where he wrestled in Peru, Mexico, and the United States, mostly in the territories in Missouri and Florida. During his time in the United States, he would adopt the ring name Hiro Matsuda to honor two Japanese wrestlers that competed in the United States during the Frank Gotch era of wrestling, Sorakichi Matsuda and Matty Matsuda. When he came back to the JWA, the IWE and Tokyo Pro splits were commencing, and he would join Yoshiwara and be the ace of the IWE. The rest of 1967 would be turbulent for both promotions, but Tokyo Pro would dissolve, and their roster went in two directions: stay with IWE or go back to JWA. Meanwhile, Yoshiwara created a governing body called the TWWA to give the crowds the thought that there was another territory body like the NWA. But the TWWA would have their body renamed to the IWA in about a couple years. IWE had a wild start in 1968, where Yoshiwara got a TV deal with the Tokyo Broadcasting System, TBS, and would momentarily take control of the booking. Hiro Matsuda and his protege, Masa Saito, would leave and go freelance in both the US and Japan. Matsuda's departure wasn't that bad for him actually. During his freelance career, he would train many wrestlers that impacted the wrestling scene in the future. The rest of 1968 was a struggle in finding a new ace, and after the Matsuda departure, the American wrestlers that worked behind the NWA's knowledge like Lou Thez and Peter Maivia left too. Yoshiwara would travel to Europe and get new talent. Some of these imported wrestlers were Lord Alfred Hayes, Tony Charles, and the temporary ace of the IWE for the upcoming years, Billy Robinson. 1969 would be the year that the IWE needed. Their native talent improved and was gaining popularity among the crowds. Animal Hamaguchi, Mighty Inoue, Rusher Kimura, Strong Kobayashi, and Thunder Sugiyama would lead the IWE to compete with the plateauing JWA for the next few years. On May 18th, at an event in Paris, Strong Kobayashi and Toyo Nobori defeated Ivan Strogoff and John Ferrer to become the inaugural IWA World Tag Team Champions. And the next day in Sendai, Sugiyama defeated Robinson for the heavyweight title. 1970 started with Toyo Nobori announcing his retirement, but besides that, 1970 would be a big year for IWE, because they had an official deal with an American promotion. They made a co-promotional deal with the American Wrestling Association, the AWA. The NWA's owner, Vern Gagne, and his entourage of Larry Hennig and Bob Windham would use their matches in Japan to scout the European wrestlers still around. Two of these wrestlers scouted would be big for the AWA and the American scene in general: Billy Robinson and a newcomer to Japan, Monster Rosimov, who would later go by the name we all know him by today, Andre the Giant. October 8th, 1970 would be the day that Japan would see the steel cage match for the first time, where Rusher Kimura defeated Dr. Death Moose Morosky and would cement him as one of the top stars of the promotion. 1972 saw IWE's number 2 spot drop to number 3, with the debuts of All Japan and New Japan. The IWE during the two promotions' early years would actually be friendly, with Yoshiwara advocating coexistence between the promotions, and throughout the 70s the IWE would let a few of their wrestlers perform at select shows for both promotions, and vice versa. In 1975, Yoshiwara pushed for Rusher Kimura to be the definitive ace of IWE. During this run, he would become the IWA champion 5 times. For a quick rundown of the title after Thunder Sugiyama's reign, you would see the likes of Bill Miller, Strong Kobayashi, Wahoo McDaniel, Superstar Billy Graham, Mighty Inoue, and Mad Dog Vachon before Kimura was booked to be the primary owner of this belt. Rusher Kimura, real name Masao, was born in Nakagawa in 1941. And growing up, watching Riki Dozan, he would dream of becoming a pro wrestler like his hero. After graduating high school, he and his brother went to a sumo dojo, where they were scouted. Masao could not resist the offer and joined the Miyagi-no-Beya sumo stable. He actually never had any intention for a long career in sumo, but to help him prepare physically to be a pro wrestler. He made it to the rank of Makushita and retired in 1964. He would be trained in the dojo and debut in 1965. When Toyo Nobori left the JWA to create Tokyo Pro, Masao would join too, since Toyo Nobori was his teacher. When Tokyo Pro closed down, he joined the IWE and had several short excursions to the United States. Meanwhile in Japan, he became the master of the steel cage match. Kimura and the cage were attracting viewers. It made sense to Yoshiwara that out of all his Japanese stars, Kimura would be chosen as the ace. The IWE and All Japan would have a co-promotional event on March 28, 1976, with 2 major matches for the show. The first match was Rusher Kimura face off All Japan's future ace, Jumbo Tsuruta, in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the vacant NWA United National title. The match ended the last fall on a double pin, making the match a draw. The other match and main event was a 2 out of 3 falls match where the All Asia Tag Team Champions and the IWA World Tag Team Champions also had a draw in a 2 out of 3 falls match. This time though by double countout. The show brought 2 mini tours between the promotions in 1977 and 1978. Kimura and Tsuruta would battle once more, and before the tours began, Animal Hamaguchi and Mighty Inoue captured the All Asia Tag Team titles, and defended the titles against a rabid All Japan roster before losing them on the last day of the 3rd tour. Despite the success of the tours with All Japan, IWE was not financially stable. They were losing money no matter the gate. The final years were like a ship slowly sinking, despite the crew's mending attempts. During this decline, Tokyo Sports, Japan's top sports newspaper, hosted a co-promotional event featuring the IWE, New Japan, and All Japan on August 26, 1979. Looking back, Some of these matches were the matches that many fans dream of. IWE's Animal Hamaguchi and New Japan's Riki Choshu faced off All Japan's All Asia Tag Team Champions Great Kojika and Motoshi Okuma in a non-title match. Jumbo Tsuruta, Tatsumi Fujinami, and Mil Mascaras teaming together against All Japan's Akahisa Takachiho, who would be the future Great Kabuki, Kim Duke, and New Japan's Masa Saito. Rusher Kimura facing former IWE alumni Strong Kobayashi, who left for New Japan in 1974. And the main event, Giant Baba and Antonio Inoki reunited to face off their rivals at the time, Abdullah the Butcher and Tiger Jeet Singh. Footage for this show is very rare, but one man on YouTube has a portion of the Baba and Inoki match available, Roy Lucier. The 1980s arrived and the writing was on the wall though, unfortunately. The IWE was going to die. The financial debt kept increasing. The TV sponsorships was becoming more distant from the promotion. And the AWA was costing them more and more financially. They would have no choice but to close down on September 30th, 1981. The wrestlers of IWE went their separate ways. All Japan would acquire the likes of Mighty Inoue, Shirahara, while others like Great Kusatsu, Devil Murasaki would just retire. But New Japan made the most out of the closure, where Yoshiwara would join as a booker, and an invading stable consisting of Rusher Kimura, Animal Hamaguchi, and Isamu Teranishi. This invading stable would be very revolutionary, since there has never been a promotion invading another booked like this before. In fact, many invading angles have this one stable to thank, such as the UWF invasions in New Japan, Riki Choshu's Japan Pro Wrestling in All Japan, and the NWO all have the IWE invasion to thank. Unfortunately, Isao Yoshiwara couldn't see how his work in New Japan would influence so many wrestlers and so many stables, because he passed away in 1985. The IWE was a promotion of many firsts in Japan. The first successful indie, the first cage match, the first hardcore match before FMW was a thought in Atsushi Onida's mind, the first hair versus hair match, and even the first promotion that had wrestlers enter the ring to music, before the fabulous Freebirds even left Bad Street, USA. The many alumni would train many prolific wrestlers in Puro today. For example, Tatsuya Naito, Evil, Shingo Takagi, and Bushi of the Los Ignorables. Spanish is not my first language, give me a moment here. Los Ingobernables stable in New Japan were trained by Animal Hamaguchi. The IWE may be gone, but they should not be forgotten. I recommend finding any footage or videos you can find of this promotion to see the pioneers whose influence can still be felt today.